Hello everyone, I'm just from Gecha town, which is a small town between Limuru and Wangige towns. And in less than a minute, I'll be hitting the town of the day, which has been hitting the headlines for all the wrong reasons. And it started sometimes last year when leading media houses in the country started reporting that the small village has been experiencing extremely high cases of suicide, an issue that really caught my attention. For instance, there was a time 4 suicide cases were reported within a day, which was quite disheartening. And another media outlet reported that 14 suicide cases had taken place within a very short period of time. I'll be telling you more about that in a few, as we'll be hitting the small town in a few seconds. We also intend to visit at least other 2 towns later in the video: schools, hospitals, and other social amenities. But before we do that, let me take this opportunity to welcome you to our YouTube channel, Village to Town, a channel that is dedicated to continue showcasing beautiful villages, towns, and cities across the continent of Africa. Our journey started here in Kiambu County, and for those who have been with us, we have covered some few sub-counties in the county. And today we are starting our third constituency, which is Kabete. So please consider subscribing so that we can visit and document all the beautiful small villages and towns across the continent together. Now back to our video, and as you can see, we are already in our small town, which goes by the name Nyathuna, and as you can see, the ambience is quite village-like. It is in Kabete Constituency, and it is part of rural Kiambu County, and by the look of things, the shopping center is definitely an old town, which somehow feels empty, but I can spot a few old boys with some old cars. Definitely you can tell they are having a good time, and I can spot a few alcohol joints, meaning that booze is readily available in the small town. It seems like the tonic bar is the biggest, although it is not opened. Probably the owner is waiting for the official opening time, which is 5 p.m. during weekdays across the country. There is this old-timer who had just decided to park his old toy in the middle of the road, and I have to be a little bit careful when passing him, as I have to veer off from the road. I told you it seems like the old-timers are having the freedom of their lifetime in this old town. There is another one in front who have just repeated the same deed, parking in the middle of the road without giving a hoot. I sometimes envision this kind of life in my old age, chilling with my old friends, with our old toys in our native village town, talking about politics and reminiscing about good old days. There are some open shops in this side of the town, although most remained closed. Probably the shopping center is not attracting business anymore, but it seems like this has not been always the case. There was a time the town was thriving. I mean, the fact that enough investors had invested in permanent houses to serve as shops and stores means that they had spotted enough opportunities in the town. But now that's belonged to history. In fact, it seems like most buildings here are more than 50 years old. And I can see a cinema hall is still open, which is quite fascinating. And it acts as a movie theater where young people can watch Western films and major football leagues from various parts of the world. It was quite fascinating to see such businesses here, as movie halls don't exist anymore, especially in this part of the country, as most villagers now own TVs and they can watch their favorite movies in the comfort of their homes. I don't know what is your take about this small town, but I'm sure great memories were made here, only if you could ask the local people. And as we always say, every small town or a village has a story. And since I know I have enough viewers from this area, just tell us what you reminisce about your old town, even long before this road was tarmacked, since I'm told the tarmac is not even 10 years old. And don't let the village ambience get you thinking that we are somewhere in rural Kenya. No, we are very close to the city. In fact, it is only 30 kilometers from Nairobi city, which is the capital of Kenya. It is also 6 kilometers from Wangige Market, the capital of Kabete Constituency, which lies along the Nairobi Western Bypass. But you can see modernity is slowly catching up with the emergence of such huge story buildings as the one I can see ahead. It seems like investors have started realizing the potential of the area, especially in terms of real estate. And it also seems like the small town is growing along the road, which is not a unique thing to this area, as most old urban centers, especially those that have newly constructed tarmacs, have tendencies of developing along the new roads, while the old shopping centers remain in ruins. This theory might explain the fate of the old Nyathuna shopping center, which we just visited, and it seems like it was on the verge of extinction. We will be hitting the local public hospital in a few, which I can see ahead on my left, as we analyze the disheartening issue of high suicide rates in this area, and the fact that sometimes back 4 suicide cases were reported in the same day broke my heart. That surely had me thinking, since from an outsider point of view, the area seems cool, especially due to the village ambience, which is quite rare, especially in areas surrounding Nairobi city, which is expected to have high stress levels, as surviving in a city is quite tough, especially in a developing country, as everything revolves around money, which is a scarce resource. And this is the area hospital, and it is quite big, considering that it is a level 4 hospital, meaning that it has both outpatient and inpatient facilities, which is not a small feat for a small village. But everything seems to be in ruins. I don't know whether they are operating or maybe they are innovating, I'm not sure. And definitely it seems like this used to be the waiting area when the hospital was functioning normally. It is a public hospital, and the fact that it is a level 4 facility means that it does not only serve Nyathuna's residents, but also people from neighboring villages, such as Seruku and Gikuni, and so there is the need to ensure the hospital attain its optimal potential. And so the county government, the ball is on your court. And as I was doing my background study on the rate of suicide in this village, I stumbled upon a detailed report by the Directorate of Criminal Investigation in Kenya, DCI, which ranked reported suicide rates in all the 47 counties across the country. And one thing that really caught my attention is that Kiambu County was leading. To give you a glimpse of the statistics, the DCI reported that there were 483 suicide cases reported in the country in the year 2022, and Kiambu County alone accounted for 109 cases. This was quite high, especially when compared to other counties such as Narok, which had 9, and Meru, which had 6 cases. Murang'a County was in the second position, followed by Kisii, Kakamega, and Kisumu. Meanwhile, I want to visit some few public facilities here on my left, and there seems to be a primary school and a Catholic church. And as you can see, the road connecting the facilities with the main road is well maintained. In fact, it has cabros, which is quite rare, especially for public primary schools across the country. I don't know who did it, whether the church or the area member of parliament for the school. Maybe the locals can tell us, but whoever did it, kudos for doing it for the kids. Well guys, what do you think about this gate being a public primary school? Well, I'm just reading here that it was funded by the national government from the MP's kitty, who goes by the name Githua Wamashukuru. Well, what a name. I'm told Wamashukuru means of schools. And true to his name, it seems like the guy lives for the schools. Kudos, big boss. I'm now entering the church compound, and I want to see what's up. And it is a Catholic church. And my first impression is that the church is very clean and the architectural design is modest. I'm not a Catholic, but my experience so far, based on the number of churches I have visited since we started this journey, these people really invest their time and money in building beautiful churches, and you got to give it to them. Wow, the compound is very clean and the plants are well maintained. and it is on a weekday, so I don't expect to see many people here. And that reminds me that one of my followers asked me why I liked visiting churches and schools. And my answer is very simple. The two institutions tell a story about the community in a manner that no one will ever do. This is because in most cases they are built by communities, and so by visiting a public primary school or a church, you can easily tell whether members of the community have teamwork, their socioeconomic status, and their priorities. In this case, I'm quite impressed by this community, although the hospital was not in a very good condition. Although I'm not sure what was happening there, you need to tell us, especially if you come from this area or you are quite familiar with the local politics. My curiosity takes me further southward. I want to explore more towns and institutions, and I'll be giving you numbers about the area. And before we start, it is good to note that Nyathuna is a location which has two sub-locations, which are Kirangari and Nyathuna, which is the small locality we are in. I don't want you to confuse the two. And to start with, the small sub-location has a total population of 8,163 people. 4,098 are men, while 4,065 are women. Well, we have a tight race there as far as gender distribution is concerned. The numbers are almost equal. Well, moving forward, there are 2,400 households, while population density stands at 1,467 people per square kilometer. The main economic activity here is farming. People really engage in serious farming in this area. And topping the list is dairy farming. And number 2 is vegetable farming. In fact, most vegetables and horticultural products such as kales and capsicums, which are consumed in Nairobi City, are farmed here. And by the look of things, it also seems like donkeys are important means of transport here. And behold, you people never told me that some donkeys can run faster than cars, as it seems like the beast in front is on some serious steroids. That's quite crazy, but one thing that we all have to agree is that this area has some really nice roads. And I want to give you another interesting piece of statistics about this area, which majorly is on labor force. And out of the 176,000 people in Kabete Constituency, 93,682 are working, meaning they are engaged in one or two economic activities which are bringing in income. 23,900 people indicated that they have no work, meaning that they are jobless, but they are actively looking for work. While 110,000 people are out of the labor force, meaning that they are either children, the elderly, or the severely disabled. We are now approaching Kirangari sublocation, which is one of the sublocations in Nyathuna ward. And I think it will be nice if I give you the numbers before we get there. And currently, the area has a total population of 12,062 people. That is according to the Kenyan Bureau of Statistics. Well, this population was quite higher than that of Nyathuna sublocation, which had 8,000 people, meaning there is a difference of almost 4,000 people. In terms of gender distribution, 5,974 are men, while 6,077 are women. The total households in Kirangari sublocation are 3,770, which is also quite higher than that of Nyathuna sublocation, which was 2,400. In terms of population density, there are 2,595 people per square kilometer, which is also an increase, which can be explained by the fact that the more southward we go, the closer we get to Nairobi City, and the more the population tends to increase. There is a secondary school on my left, which I want to explore. And if you are a good observant, you can see a small town in the background. That is Wangige town, meaning we are not far from it. Just a few steps from Kabete's capital. And that reminds me that we did visit the town before, especially when we were starting. So you can go and check the video. It is on this channel. Although we intend to do a more detailed tour around the big market town, so stay tuned. But first, let's explore this school. And it goes by the name Kirangari High School. It's a boys only school. And it is also a boarding school, meaning that you are only allowed to go home 2 times a term, probably during the midterm closing break and after the end of the term exams. Currently, there are no students here as schools are closed across the country, but definitely they'll be getting back next week. The school is also undergoing a series of renovations, as you can see, and it seems like the administration is racing against time so that they'll be done by the time students are getting here next week. I want to give you a nice tour of the school. Personally, I've never been here, but I have heard about it severally. It's a great school, and it is one of the oldest high schools in the area, meaning it has enough alumni across the country. In fact, if you schooled here, you can tell us more about your school in the comment section down below. Also tell us the year you left and whether or not the school has changed much. And I can see the school motto, which is right in front of me, and that is knowledge is power. Quite simple, but very straightforward. And that reminds me of my high school days, the first time I saw this motto. I had just joined one of the boys' schools in the region, and during inter-schools game, I saw Kirangari Boys High School bus. And one thing that really caught my attention about the bus is that it had a big mural on the back depicting a bull's head. And this very school motto was written in Kikuyu language. Well, that was the good old days. I don't know whether the bus still exists, but maybe the old boys can tell us. And as I leave the school, let me give you a few numbers about the highest level of education attained by most people in this area. And out of the 176,000 people in Kabete Constituency, 64,331 had only completed primary school education, while 85,000 had high school diplomas. And lastly, 21,700 people had university degrees. Well, the population is quite educated, with those with no single papers tallying at 11,611. Well, that was Kabete for you. And this is our first video of many about Kabete that we intend to post in the course of the next few weeks. In fact, we'll visit every single village and small towns in the area. And therefore stay tuned and please continue watching the scenic view until the end. And kindly consider subscribing to our YouTube channel, Village to Town. Like the video so that it can be recommended to as many people as possible. And smash the notification bell so that every time we post, you'll be among the first few people to be notified. Keep the conversation going. Tell us what do you think about today's video. And what do you think is the leading cause of high suicide rates among youths? And what should be done to save the situation? Thank you.